What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I am so super stoked to have you here. I'm really excited about this video today because this is what I've been wanting to do since I first started the Lumafusion 101 series. What we're going to do today is we are going to work on color grading 10-bit iPhone footage inside of Lumafusion. And I wanted to do this a little bit of a twist to it because I want to see which one is better actually with this footage. Is it going to be Lumafusion or is it going to be Final Cut? So we're going to start in Lumafusion. Now what I did is today I was out shopping for stuff for my next video. And while I was out, I just threw my camera on while I was in Target and just recorded the cart going down the aisle. It's a little bit jumpy, but that doesn't matter for color grading. So let's go ahead and jump in Lumafusion and let's get started. Now I'm going to be doing the same footage and I'm going to be rating it on three different scales. I'm going to rate it on ease, I'm going to rate it on performance, and then I'm going to rate it on the overall bang for your buck cost. So let's jump in Lumafusion and let's do the first clip. So I filmed this on Filmic Pro in the log profile. Now in Lumafusion, under your LUTs, thank you. Under your LUTs, down here you get some actual Filmic D-Log LUTs that you can use. They come pre-built in that will automatically bring the D-Log 3, I believe is the one you want to use. Yeah, that is going to automatically bring your 10-bit footage and make it look nice and make it look like what it looked like in the sensor. Now I don't want to use this LUT here just because for two reasons. One, it doesn't look as good in Final Cut as it does in Lumafusion. Like I said, it comes built into Lumafusion. With Final Cut, you're going to have to download it from Filmic Pro's website, and then you can use it that way. But the other reason is I only use the D-Log if I'm just going to go with a straight look, because all I have to do with this is I put it in here, then I come up to my color palette, bring that to an original, and then literally just play around, cool this off to where I want it. Maybe pull a little of the saturation, and look, and there you go. There's a natural look, and it only took me 3 seconds. But with Lumafusion, I can't throw another LUT on there, so I can't stylize this anymore. So this is the look I have to sit with. I want to create a stylized look. And so to do that, we're going to need to actually just basically D-Log this ourselves and then use a LUT to get the stylized look. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. Oh, I don't have that. And I'm going to delete both of these, and I'm going to bring that original back. And I'm just going to play around here. I want to get my contrast back in, because with log, you're basically taking the contrast out and you're tweaking the saturation. And so I want to bring that contrast back. I'm going to darken it just a bit. And we want to play around a little bit with that saturation. And I'm going to pull those highlights back actually and bring the shadows up a bit. And now we do the same thing to cool this a bit. And there we go, same amount of time, and we have the same look. But now we can go in here and we can find a LUT that I like, which is, where was that at? Is that keep red? I think I like the keep red. No. You know what? I've got LUTs. I'm gonna grab one. Oh, interesting. I don't have access to files anymore. Okay, that's fine. Don't mind all my files. Let's go with a look lot, and let's make this a 70s looking. Bam! Now we have our stylized look. It only took us like 2 minutes to get. I'm gonna tell you, this is gonna be hard for Filmic Pro to beat this timing to get this look, but let's go try. Let's go, or sorry, Final Cut Pro. It's gonna be hard for Final Cut Pro to beat this time, but let's go ahead and jump in. We're on the same clip at the exact same spot. Now you see a difference here, and I love this about Final Cut, and I wish we had this in Lumafusion, which are these scopes right here. These scopes are gonna tell you so much information, and I just wanna give you a quick overview of it. So color is really expressed by light. So whatever you see is in color is really how much light there is in that image, in that color spectrum. And there's really only 3 primary colors, which are red, blue, and green. And when all 3 are equal, everything is white. So if wherever you have the exact same amount of red, blue, and green, you have a white. So that's helpful. Light is measured in a form that's called a nit. An 8-bit footage, which is normally what I shoot out of my camera, has 100 nits, whereas 10-bit footage has 10,000 nits. Makes sense? Hopefully. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at this and see what we can do. Now, I also want to point out the reason I did this in log is because it goes back to I want to do that stylized look. If I just wanted to get the straight fresh look out, I would have just used the native camera app and just used that footage, because Dolby Vision, it burns a LUT in there to get this nice crisp look, and it's a beautiful look. So if you don't want to go through all this work and you just want to film in Dolby and the Dolby Vision, go for it. You're gonna still have a great looking video. Okay, so we're in here. We need to come to our color screen. I can actually do this if I go to workspaces, color correcting workspace. There you go. It pops everything up just like that. I have my histogram here, and I have my RGB parade, but I don't want both. I just want the one right now, because this is what I really want to focus on. So you'll see we don't have the same sliders we had before. We have the color wheels, but everything we did in those sliders you can do here. So we're gonna bring our highlights up and our shadows down. And then we're gonna play in our midtones to get that like nice even tone. And then we're gonna come in here into our temperature, and we're gonna cool that off a bit. And as you see, we're now starting to get close to that same look. But we don't have our saturation or vibrance or anything like that. So for that, we're gonna have to add a color board, and we can come to saturation, and we can add, well, you know what? I'm not being totally honest. If we stay on our color wheels, this left one is our saturation. So you can play with that a bit. And we'll be doing the same thing you're doing in the color board. The color board really helps me to get this nice stylized look that I want. And as you see, we're staying below 200 nits. So we're not even really gonna get that bright of an image. You see how I'm trying to keep the majority of those colors in the same spot? Just because I want this to say a pretty basic image. And then I'm gonna add one more. I'm gonna come here, hit my down arrow, and I'm gonna add my hue versus saturation. And I wanna click on this red here. And I just wanna saturate that a little more. And I think that gives us a pretty good close look as to what was in Lumafusion. Yeah, that's a pretty close look there. So now we need to come down here and it would look like this. I closed that out so you can see. You open this up, go to color, and then you just drop a custom LUT down on top. And we're gonna come back in here and we're gonna go get that same LUT. So you just open this up, choose a custom LUT, and we're gonna go, it was on our desktop, under YouTube stuffs. This was a 70 free, and I think it was under the look LUTs, right? Which one did we go with? 70s, okay. Oh, 70s. And we're gonna adjust that just a bit. Now we'll have to come back in here into our color wheels, our color board. Let's get our exposure down from our highlights, up in our midtones, and down in our shadows. And there we go. We have our stylized look on both. Took roughly about the same amount of time. So which do we like better? Well, first let's put them up side by side. Let me know in the comments, guys, what do you guys think about this? Which one do you think looks better? Which one would you prefer to watch? Which one makes you feel like I'm watching a 70s buddy cop movie? Okay, so let's break this down by the criteria I said. So ease, which one is easier? Well, with Lumafusion, it was one screen, you did all the adjustments there, and then you threw the LUT on. Whereas with Final Cut, I had to add different things to do different little pieces of work in there. And I'm not gonna lie, it does really help if I'm not doing such a stylized shot, that I could literally just drop that filmic D-Log in there, and it came with Lumafusion. I didn't have to go download that somewhere else. And I can just play with the color, the sliders a little bit, and have my look. That's a plus. And with with Final Cut, I like that you can do it in layers. You can add the different things on, because I do like to go in layers, but it does add a little bit more time and work. So for just speed of use, Lumafusion hands down. For that, at least for that edit, there have been some that are harder, like low light. I'm going to tell you, Final Cut will blow Lumafusion out of the water, because you can add adjustment layers and things like that, and you're not going to be constantly having to start over. You can just make little tweaks that you can't make inside of Lumafusion. Which brings me to functionality. Like, which one is more functional? Obviously, that's going to be Final Cut, because it does have a lot more functions to it. Are they better? Not always. There's some reason, for some reasons, some things like this, I prefer the look right now of the one out of Lumafusion. I think for that function, it does way better, because Final Cut has so many steps and so much to do that it thinks Final Cut thinks macro or micro, and Lumafusion thinks macro. So Lumafusion, you're adjusting the overall. Final Cut, you're adjusting minute things. So for that reason, sometimes having more functionality isn't a plus, and that this would be one of those situations. But overall, I would say the functionality of Final Cut with color grading, especially in 10-bit, is better. So this part actually falls into both ease and functionality, and so it's why I waited a second to tell you. And that is with Final Cut, or with Lumafusion, if I drop a 10-bit clip out of my phone into Lumafusion, it actually just automatically adjusts the timeline to be a 10-bit timeline. Whereas with Final Cut, it will not. I have to go through some steps. It takes 3 seconds. It's not a lot of steps, but I do have to go through those. The same goes if I drop a piece of 10-bit footage onto an 8-bit timeline. Lumafusion will automatically adjust the clip down, at least as far as I've seen so far. You don't have this massively blown out clip. Whereas Final Cut, well, let's go into Final Cut. Let me show you what happens in Final Cut. I will change this timeline, and I'll show you actually the steps. So you come here, you have to come to your library, come to modify, and then you can change it. So if I change this to a standard one, wait till you see what happens to that clip. Well, yeah, so you see it's a little bit more blown out than it was before. And even if you don't see it here, if I tried to render this out, you would see it there. So for that reason, functionality I'm still giving to Final Cut, even though there are, for the smaller things, your bigger functionality is actually a hindrance. Just the fact that it does think micro as opposed to macro gives it that advantage. So I'm gonna swing that one to Final Cut. And then as far as bang for your buck cost, I wanted to do it based on what you get per dollar as opposed to the overall cost, because the overall cost would not be fair. That would be like me trying to judge Final Cut on it not being as mobile as Lumafusion. It's just not a fair comparison because Final Cut costs 10 times more. But are you getting 10 times more functionality in your color grading for that extra money? And if I'm honest, I'm gonna say no. Now, if Final Cut were $150, so if it were 5 times as much, 5 times as much, you know what? I would probably say, yeah, you're getting 5 times as much as far as just color grading goes. So for that, yes, I would say Final Cut would be a better bang for your buck. But because you're not, because Lumafusion does so much for that $30, hands down, it's gonna have to take the bang for your buck cost. So that gives Lumafusion that slight edge. I only did 3 because I wanted there to be an actual clear winner. So Lumafusion does get a slight edge in color grading 10-bit iPhone footage. And if you add in that Filmic Pro and Lumafusion are very integrated to each other, so it's really just a couple of steps to take that footage after you film it, have it in Lumafusion, and be started editing, that makes it go even further. So as far as iPhone footage goes, stick with Lumafusion, edit inside your phone if you can, and you can pop a video up like that. On my last video, I filmed it, edited it, and had it up within 4 hours. So that tells you just how fast you can do it. All right, guys, that's all I got for you. So hopefully this was helpful. If so, let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe, notification, those good things so that you can get all of this great content as I keep creating it and I keep getting more and more stuff, and hopefully I keep getting better and better. But until next time, guys, stay safe, stay healthy, keep editing, and God bless. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week.